And for more on this, we are joined live by Dr. Avner Cohen, who is a professor of non-proliferation and terrorism studies at Middlebury Institute in Monterey. Mr. Cohen, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to begin with my first question now. Ahead of Antony Blinken's fourth crisis visit to Israel today, fears of the war spreading to a wider multi-frontal war are at the highest level right now. And at the same time, there are discussions on post-war that are emerging. Israel's defense minister has laid out a post-Gaza war plan. Basically, questions and discussions on who will govern Gaza post-war have started emerging. What is going to happen next?
Well, it's difficult to know. It's difficult to know because the Israeli government itself is highly divided, not just highly divided, but essentially there is a great deal of animosity between the prime minister, between the Minister of Defense Gallant. There are various kind of needs which are relevant but not relevant. They're not about the situation, but they're about the coalition of Prime Minister Netanyahu. The result is that the Israeli government is not talking in one voice. Prime Minister Netanyahu is trying to postpone as much as he can the questions of the day after. He would like to prolong the war. And indeed, the state of the war is at this point unclear, even though there has been a great deal of devastation and a great deal of loss of human life on the other side, on the Palestinian side, since October 7th. Israel has many tactical gains, but it has not yet been able to break the Hamas the way the prime minister put this very broad objectives. So it's a very complex situation. The objective has not yet achieved. There are various ideas. I think there is also consensus among most Israelis, not all, but most Israelis, that Israel should not rule in terms of civil ruling, civil governance, the Gaza Strip. Only would continue to have security control and would continue to try to dismantle Hamas infrastructure.
And Dr. Cohen, let's also address, if I may say so, the elephant in the room. Now, US, Israel's strong ally, has had its unequivocal support, and this is what we got to hear consistently from the beginning of the war. But now, when it comes to discussions around who will govern Gaza post-war, US and Israel differ. Washington, in fact, says that Gaza must be ruled by Palestinians. What is your assessment of this divided opinion of the allies on this issue?
Again, big part of the difficulties is the precarious position of the prime minister himself. The part of the confrontation or part of the disagreement is between the prime minister and the Biden administration. And it is the prime minister who refused to provide constructive ideas. He simply wants to postpone, and he's not ready to talk about things. Minister of Defense Gallant would like to create a situation in which the United States would have a role, as well as Egypt, as well as local Palestinians, and of course Israel itself, in a way that will have some kind of sharing in terms of the civil government. But the Israeli government itself is highly divided, and there are personal antagonism among many of the major players.
And Dr.
I don't know if you know, let me just finish.
Please,
I don't know
please.
if you know, but literally hours ago, last night, the cabinet meeting could not even complete it. There was a fight between ministers and the chief of staff, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, about the investigation panel that he is about to appoint. Some ministers describe it as a lynch over the chief of staff. The prime minister was watching, almost not participating. At the end, he said to the chief of staff that he should listen to the ministers. So it's become more and more escalating in terms of the ability of that government to function. And I wouldn't be surprised if next week there will be very strong voices to end the present government and to push towards new election, even during the war. I mean, it's come to a point of crisis. This government is less and less being able to function.
Well, apart from the crisis that you've highlighted, there's also the humanitarian crisis that continues and escalates. Correct. Now, Israeli Prime Minister and senior officials have said that the war in Gaza will continue until all the hostages are released and Hamas militants are removed. And as the war now enters 2024, Dr. Cohen, many questions are still unanswered and the fate of many, many people still hangs in balance. And the question on everyone's mind is, when will the war end?
And the answer is nobody can tell. The war is about change phases, at least in northern Gaza. Israel has changed the deployment, took some of the forces out, and tried to do it by smaller forces, using more of Air Force, and it's a kind of change of mode of deployment. The southern part and the central part of the strip, that is to say the Deir el-Balach and the Khan Yunis, there is still a very, very intensive war. The Hamas, some of the battalions of the Hamas are still viable forces. And honestly, I don't think that anybody can tell for how long the fighting will continue there. Yes, there is a very strong pressure about the humanitarian crisis. As you know, some more than 22,000 Palestinians were killed. And there is probably some more thousand in the wreckage. So, and there is possibility of, disease and other medical spread. And there is a lot of concern.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cohen, on that note, for joining us and giving us your time and all those insights. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you.